We have another Asian beauty brand to talk about, and this is Cheeryep. I mentioned Cheeryep already a couple times. I have multiple videos with a product of their brand. One being the big ass dragon palette that is like as big as my frame here. Then of course the different palettes, the focus, the stealing hearts. I have already decluttered palettes from them because the color story at the end was not the right thing for me. My favorite from them, you know, that is the Floating Life. It's the one that they did in collaboration with Freya86, and they recently came out with this beauty. This is number 11 Runaway Princess, and this combines warm eyeshadow and neutral leaning cool toned eyeshadows. So if you want, you can basically do like a cut here in the middle, and then you basically have two different palettes in one. This palette is of course available on Lookhealthystore.com, and you can save 12% with my code ELLAGRAM. If you use that code, you save money, I make a commission, and this palette was sent to me in PR by Lookhealthystore. But as always, this does not affect my review because no matter if PR or not, the review is here to help you make a mindful decision whether you want to purchase this or not. So let's talk about the swatches for a moment. They look not special. I don't want to lie to you. The shimmers look really like nothing. The mattes look fine. They look really fine, but some of them maybe even a bit too similar. And that's just a phenomenon that I've seen with a lot of Asian beauty stuff. The swatches always look super duper weak, but depending on how you then use them on the eyes, they will transform everything. So in the video, for example, I think you can see it much better how shiny and how sparkly all of these shimmers are, and that they, although they are maybe a little bit similar in the pan, have different undertones and different base tones to just give you a variety of shimmer options aside from the variety of matte options. What I'm wearing on my eye right now is the look number 2 that I done with the cool tone side. So the first look that you will see is done with the warm tone side of the palette. Right away, I want to say that I am a big fan of this true gold shade. And this here, this is what I wear on my inner corner and brow bone. It is one of those wet looking ethereal shadows with a bit of a different textures. So when you think of these ethereal shadows and you think maybe of Natasha Denona's I Need a Nude palette that has these, or Makeup by Mario Ethereal Eyes, they are very thin, they are smooth and thin. These are not like that. They do have a flaky formulation that is working well, but they don't look smooth, but not in a bad way, not smooth. To me, they have an effect of like scattered or shattered glass. You know, glass is shattered in 1,000 pieces and the light is reflecting in all the different directions. That is the effect that I get from these shadows, and I do really enjoy this. So you get in this small palette, size-wise, actually also variations in the formulation and in the finishes that you can work with. But now I'd say let's head over to the 2 looks and then my final review. So the first look will be concentrating on, of course, this side of the palette, so we're staying more in the warm regions, and I'm starting with that shade here, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a like beigey color with some shimmers throughout, so like this sequin, as I just learned are these called. And I apply this very roughly in my crease and transition up to the brow. I then go into the shade number 2 and apply this in the crease for more depth. I could be totally wrong, but with this side of the palette I get major Urban Decay Honey vibes. I now go into the second shade of the lower row, and that one I apply on the outer V area and outer crease. This is the deepest shade of the look today. The shades are definitely buildable, so I'm now on the second layer of this darker brown. I want to incorporate all 4 of the shimmers on this side of the palette, so I'm starting with the first shade in the second row. And I tap this on the outer third. Oh, I see how this shimmer can be a favorite for a lot of people. This is like like borderline a skin tone shimmer bronze summer metallic. It's weird, but it's very pretty. I now go into the third shade of the upper row, the pure gold. I'm very excited for that one. And that one I tap in the center of the lid. And I'm very curious for this shade, this marbled gold silver. So I mix it in actually. And that one I apply on the rest of the lid. It is like a very, very warm white. I wouldn't call this a golden color, but it turns into something very, very shimmery white warm. For the lower waterline, I'm using the Victoria Beckham Satin Kajal Liner in Gold Lame. And I line the waterline with that. I then go into that second shade from the second row and smudge this along the lower lash line. And I also go into that fourth shade from that same row that I haven't used yet in the crease. And I apply this underneath and on top for a smokier pumpkin look. And now tap into the very first shade of the palette and use this as inner corner highlight. And here we have the first finished look. On the lips I'm wearing Charlotte Tilbury lip liner in Pillow Talk, and I topped it off with the Cold Classic Pillow Teddy, oh my god, Velvet Teddy from MAC. I don't know what I expected from this first part of the palette, but I know what you cannot expect, and these are these velvet smooth shimmers. Here in that first part, these shimmers, aside from this one here, they remind me a lot of like scattered light looks. So they're not like flaky like Chrome Flakes from the Nessa Myrick's or some of the indies, but the effect that they give on the eyes are definitely not like a smooth swipe of metallic. As said, it's like a scattered, shattered glass effect. Personally, I'm not mad about this. I really like that effect, so I'm very, very excited now for the second look of the video that will incorporate the cool tone part of the palette. Look number 2, I start with the 6th shade here in the first row, and that one I apply directly in the crease. I tap into that bone colored shade here with a more fluffy brush and use this on that transition area to just soften it. Next up I go into the last shade of the palette, and that one I tap on the outer and on the inner third. Blend that into the crease a bit, but I'm not blending it in the center. And I go into the gray next to the dark shade, and I use this to connect both. I applied my glitter glue, and now I go into the last shade of the first row, and that one I now tap into the center. And then I rebuild the outer darkness. Just keep on tapping it so that you do not see a harsh line between the shimmer and the matte. I also went back in that grayish shade and I just reapply a bit in the crease. The waterline, I'm using the Colourpop BFF Cream Gel Liner in the shade Kicker. It's a shiny silver shade. It reminds me of like a mirror reflection on the lower lid, and I really like that finish actually. I now tap back into that dark gray here. I apply this on the outer third and inner third of the lower lash line. And I also tap into the gray next to it again and apply this on top to smooth everything out. And now I go back into that shimmer here and I apply this between those two mattes. And then I use one of the brushes that I just used and diffuse the edges a bit. Usually with a halo eye, you most of the time don't do inner corner highlight, but I just love inner corner highlight. So now go into that nice shimmer here next to the other shimmer that we used. This is a bit more flaky than the center shimmer, so it took a bit to pick it up. But I apply this on the inner corners, and this time I'm not applying it on the lid or the lower lash line. I just keep on tapping it basically in the same area as the size of the brush that I'm using. On the lips, I went with MAC Mahogany Lip Liner, topped it then off with Flash Pot, and I didn't like the way this looked, so I wiped it off. And then I applied the Givenchy Rose Perfetto Balm in 1110. I think it is called Milky Nude or something like that. It is not a big surprise that, of course, this side of the palette is so much more appealing to me than this side of the palette. I do want to point out, though, that I really enjoy the mix. I specifically decided to do two looks where I used the warm side and the cool tone side. You can, of course, mix and match them and get a really, really nice balanced out look. All the shimmers, besides this one here and this one here, they are more flaky and maybe even a bit like squishy, so they do take a bit of a careful hand to use them. But I personally don't mind that formula because I love the effect that it gives on the eyes. I am a big fan of the Cheeryep formulation in general, so I do not have to say anything bad about this aside that one comment about the flakiness, and if you don't like that, then this might not be the right thing for you. Overall, I think it's a well done formulation in the neutral space of the makeup. Of course, this is not a Freya palette, this is not a Focus palette, this is not the Dragon palette. This is just the neutral take that combines the warmth and the cool tones, although I do have to say this is not as cool toned as I hoped it would be. And maybe if you decided to skip Natasha Denona's Golden and the I Need a Warm palette, but you're still craving these tones, but you don't want to spend that much money on a Natasha Denona palette, maybe this is good for you because honestly, this has a lot of golden vibes going on. So as mentioned in the intro, if you want to get this, it is available, of course, on Lookhealthystore.com, and you can save 12% with my code ELLAGRAM. I'm very, very thankful that she sent me this in PR. I probably wouldn't have picked this up myself because of that very warm side, but I'm very happy that I have it now. So what do you think? Is this a palette that's appealing to you? Let me know down below. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any cool videos. LMS is right around the corner, and thank you so much that you joined me today, and I hope I can see you in the next one.